Welcome everyone to the October 21st Eastham Climate Action Committee meeting. A lot of exciting things going on. It's again, it's really a tribute to the hard work that the whole committee has been doing, the momentum that has been growing year after year and this year as well. So a lot of good things going on. A packed agenda is part of the result of a lot of good things going on. Thank you. Yeah. And also I need to say that this meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local access channel 8 and through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov. Thank you for the reminder. So what we're going to try to do, I guess my job is to try to keep things moving and keep us get us out of here by 6:30. So as we've been doing, we're going to try to avoid really detailed, I'll say, wordsmithing on documents unless it's something that we're about to release and we haven't been able to resolve things. So we encourage folks to continue though doing that type of review. I know I've found it very helpful when folks give me ideas on different wording and different ways to say things. But what I'd rather not do is bog the whole committee down in that. So let's try to hit the significant things, or certainly if things haven't been resolved with the author, we can certainly do that. But in order to fit everything in, I'm going to try to avoid edit by committee here. So thus a big meeting packet, which everyone has, and we'll refer to that today as we go through. So let's start with a quick set of introductions. Tom McNellis.
Oh, Andrew Shea.
Harriet Emerson.
Jack Hadley.
Oh, I'm not.
Oh, you're here. You're a guest.
John Boyney, member.
Roberta Longley, member.
Ula Pegland, member.
All right, and online.
Kathy Daw, Eastham Part-Time Resident Taxpayers Association.
Welcome, Kathy.
Cheryl, Gail, interested, hopefully volunteer.
Welcome. So I do expect Shana today. I don't know. I don't see her logged in yet. First, we'll do public comments. Any guest comments? There's Shana. Cheryl.
All I want to say is I've been following you a little bit online and everything you're doing, so great. And I needed to take a little, step aside a little bit, but I just want you to know I feel re-energized, and if you need help on any subcommittees or anything, please keep me in mind, because I feel ready to jump back in.
Absolutely, that's wonderful.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
On the weekend. Never too early.
All right, and I think I saw Shana popping in there. There we go. Hey, Shana.
Hi,
So,
how's it going?
Good. Why don't we turn it over to you for any administrative updates?
So the only update I have is on the chargers out by the town hall. So we're working with Weston and Sampson and Eversource to get some plans put together for upgrading them to fast charging stations. So we'll be replacing what's there now with in-kind, sort of, not really in-kind, but fast chargers. And once we hear back, I guess we're really waiting for Eversource to respond. So once we hear back from them, we'll have an understanding as to what the cost is. And then that grant may have a match component Rich mentioned. So we're not sure what the percentage is and what that entails, but there could be a smaller match component for the town to contribute some funding towards the charging stations. And then the library chargers are down, as you mentioned, and Mira she's been away, so she'll be back. I think she's gone all this week, but when she gets back, She's gonna work with Scott in the building department and try to see if they can get someone out there to service them, or at least do some investigations as to what's wrong and how we can get them up and running again. And, she was going, Rich was gonna ask her to see about getting like a service contract, so we can have them kind of, because the software is not gonna be that, serviceable by that company anymore. Hopefully we can get a service contract going so that as they break, we can get someone to work on them. And he was also mentioning maybe partnering with Orleans.
Partnering with who, Shannon? You said partnering with who? On those charges of the library. You said-
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Oh, sorry.
There's no
Maybe
like,
partnering with who?
he mentioned that there was maybe somebody in the town of Orleans that had a service contract for the chargers there. I'm not really sure. He didn't really specify, but he said partnering, I'm assuming the town of Orleans.
All right, I'm assuming that we're gonna probably have to replace the heads chargers as well, because NLX obviously, I don't think is gonna support them anymore, and I
No.
don't think, yeah, if you're gonna charge, you're gonna need a new head for each station, so.
So they basically went out of business
Yes.
and there was
No,
no
No, they
continuity
go out of
plan?
business, they ceased North American operations. They're still in business, but not in North America.
Yeah.
Right, but they're not supporting.
Correct.
And there were nobody acquiring their assets
No.
or anything like that?
No,
Wow.
no.
Yeah.
They,
Incredible.
my understanding is they only gave 2 weeks' notice. And at the time of the notice, they said, don't bother calling us because we're not going to answer the phone.
So you send that
Yeah.
information about-
It's horrible. And across the country, from what we understand, everyone was just caught totally flat-footed by
yeah,
this.
yeah.
And they've just turned off their servers. So there's no way to turn on, as I understand it, no way to turn on the chargers.
Yeah, it's not just municipal, it's also residential too.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
My brother has two in his garage, but he obviously doesn't have to charge for them, so they'll still operate.
Right.
As long as you don't need to use the
bill
Wi-Fi
piece,
or the billing
yeah.
software, or-
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Why does he have a charger in his garage? I mean,
Because he has one EV right now, he's probably gonna get another one.
right, but through a company.
No,
Why
in
through a
his home
company?
garage.
Right, but you said through the company, that's why I was wondering.
No, through the same NLX, through the same company that just
Right.
pulled. But it was long before, he got those charges long before they pulled out,
Yeah.
pulled out, so.
So, yeah, so wonderful news though, as you said, Shana, the fast chargers are coming as a grant from the feds, right? That are coming through the state, coming down to us, and it looks like that's been approved at this point.
It seems to be, I mean, Weston and Sampson's engineering, what Eversource is gonna need to install, I guess, to upgrade the power there, because I guess they were, when the other chargers were installed, there was like a modification to the power service there, but it may need to be upgraded even further for the fast chargers. So, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's moving forward, and it's unless we hear otherwise.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's interesting, when Roberta and I were coming in for meeting last week, there were 2 folks over there struggling with the chargers, and I went over to say hi, and they said they were in a panic. They said, we only have 14 miles left on the battery. They came in from off Cape. They stopped at Stop and Shop and couldn't get Tesla chargers to fit their rental car because they had been given an EV rental and they didn't know where to go. So I sent them over to Cape Associates, but yeah, they were in a panic. So, yeah, that's good, bad news, but good news at the same time. So
Yeah.
thanks, Shana.
Does AAA come if you run out of battery on the highway?
I don't know. That's a really
I
good
think it's a
question.
good question, because I
Yeah.
think that's the whole, like, oh, I want to take it.
It's
It's a roll tow, they don't have a way to charge your car rapidly, it's a tow.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I think they should
Huh.
put a generator with a charger on it.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like
Well,
a-
AAA's position has been, they did have several trucks that had onboard generators for charging. And they said by the time they were hooking up and charging at the rate they could charge, meaning electric charge, not dollar charge, it was easier for them just to tow the vehicle. So
Yeah.
now they're just towing the vehicles.
Wow.
And not doing onboard charging.
Interesting.
It's like a
Because it's
triple
also,
time.
because they're there longer, it's not safe to be on the, they argue, it's not safe to be sitting on the side of the road, you know, for an extended period of time, so they prefer now just to tow people to the nearest charger and work it from there.
Wow,
Yep.
interesting.
Hmm.
Okay, anything else, Shane?
So Rich mentioned we have the solar on the DPW roof as well as on the landfill. And the solar that's on the DPW roof, I guess the agreement that we have with them is due to expire soon. So he's mentioned that we probably won't be renewing our agreement with them because of the influx state of the DPW building as it's being evaluated for potential wastewater treatment facility area. So that is probably not going to continue. The separate contract for the landfill is still going forward, and I think that's much more recent than the DPW building itself. And then he mentioned,
Shane,
was
I don't
that?
know if that's correct. I believe it's the DPW and the elementary school that are renewing. The two
Oh, so it's okay,
Not the DPW. I mean, DPW and elementary school, not the landfill.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, so the landfill's fine, it's just
Yeah.
the roof on the DPW building. And then so in trying to use up the Green Communities initial funding that was allocated to the town, we're trying to fix the HVAC at the fire department. And so we're still waiting to hear back from Rise, which said that they're supposed to get back to us with a cost estimate. And it's been like 2 months, I think. And he's reaching out to them regularly to get that cost estimate so that we can upgrade the HVAC at the fire department, because then we were gonna try to continue using the Green Communities funding to upgrade it's a smaller project at the police department, and then kind of go from there in terms of applying for grants under Green Communities. But that's where we're at with that, and that's my updates.
Thank you. So when the contract doesn't get renewed for the DPW and the elementary school, what happens to those arrays? The solar
That's what I
arrays?
asked.
They have to-
He said he's gonna look at the contract itself to see, he says there's probably some provision in there about decommissioning and taking them away, the company taking them away, but he said we need to look at the contract to see what happens to them.
So
Because I
Shane,
was like, well, maybe we can hold on to them or declare them as surplus and see if somebody in the community wants, just different ideas of how we could reuse them.
So Shane, that's different than when I talked to Rich last.
Okay,
When the renewals first came out, we discussed the fact that, we were gonna be redeveloping the DPW site for the municipal sewer, but that was probably still gonna be several years off. So I thought what we decided, he must have changed his mind, that we were gonna renew the contract and renegotiate the terms so that we would continue to at least have solar until we started to, so we signed contracts to redevelop the area, which is still years away. So I'm surprised that we're not gonna benefit from those solar panels, at least until that time frame. So that's different than what he and I discussed
okay,
months ago, so. Okay,
Mm.
I'll double back with him and
all right,
so am I.
Yeah, it's a good point. It'd
Because
be
but
nice.
Maria Marasco at CVAC, that's what she recommended. Is that we just decide to renew and renegotiate with the new lease terms until we knew we were gonna definitely have to abandon that site. So,
Great. So Mike, you'll follow up.
Yeah, I'll follow
Thanks.
up.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay. All right. Thank you, Shana. So we have today we're lucky to have today Kathy Daw from the Eastham Part-Time Residents Association. She's vice president of the association, and as we've been talking this year, we would really like to find ways to do more collaboration. So we thought today would be a good day to give an overview of the association and just bring everyone up to speed on what it's about, and maybe talk just a little bit about collaboration.
So thanks, Tom, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm going to, I put together a couple of charts that I can send to Tom for distribution if you would like them.
That'd be great.
For some reference.
You want to share your charts?
I know, hang on. I
Okay.
was doing something and then it, it's like too many things here. Yeah, right. Too bad this worked before. All right. Hang on. Well, while I'm fussing around with this, let me talk a little bit about what EPRTA is, right? So the first thing I learned is you have to be able to say it, right? Eastham Part-Time Resident Taxpayers Association, aka EPRTA. It is a it's a volunteer organization. Let's see, that's not it. What's interesting about this is I have this presentation up. Who's really good at this? Who's really good at? Who's really good at? Can you see it?
We can see it now.
Okay, good. All right.
Perhaps if you can go into full screen mode, because we
Yeah,
see
I did.
a lot of menus up there.
Yeah, well, listen. It's been an interesting day. We just sent out our newsletters today, so it was kind of a busy day. So it's a volunteer organization. What's interesting about it is it's more than 50 years old. It was founded in 1973. So we celebrated our 50th anniversary last year. And it's really was established to represent part-time residents to the select board, to the town government, and also to some committees. So that's what is it? But the question is, who is it, right? I mean, it's an organization made up of more than 1,200 part-time property owners, right? Which is pretty interesting. And we did a survey in February, and we learned a lot about our own organization. When you have an organization that's been in place for a long time, you sometimes forget what you're supposed to, or you don't even know, the people who knew aren't there anymore. So what was interesting, the most interesting thing we learned about the people who responded was that only 20% of them actually rent their property, which is pretty interesting because I think the feeling on the part of a lot of us, residents and non-residents in Eastham, is that most part-time residents rent their property. And I think that's probably not accurate. Now, we got 270 respondents, which is a pretty good response rate for a survey, as you guys probably know. You sent out your own survey recently. More than 50% of them have been members for more than 10 years. This was also interesting to me. On average, people have owned their property for 23 and a half years. That's a long time, right? These are people who are invested in Eastham. About 50% of them rented something in Eastham, a property, or maybe more than one, before they actually bought property. So it's kind of like a try and buy sort of a strategy. About 55% of them spend 12 weeks or less. So think, maybe June, July, August, some combination of those, or maybe into the fall, depending. And about 8% of them spend more than half the year. So that's kind of interesting. I know that on my block, most of the part-time residents are there from April through October, which is kind of interesting. So that's interesting about some of the things that they might be interested in.
And Kathy, I'm wondering whether we're seeing the proper part of your screen, because we do see your screen, but we don't see what you're speaking to.
You don't see the presentation?
No, no.
Okay,
Says
well,
the
that's not good. You can
person.
see 37 different things, right? Right. That's not good. Okay. This is really interesting because this is something I'm pretty confident. Let's see if I can do it this way.
So what we
Hang
see,
on.
Kathy, is the July 6th.
Yeah, I know you see the wrong document.
Yeah, we're
You see
seeing a
the-
Word document.
You see a document that we sent out last summer. Let me try this from the beginning. Okay, I think this works now.
There we go.
Here we
There.
go.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the page that I just talked about, right? You know, kind of statistics. One of the things that we did this in this past February to try to get a real sense of the organization and did this survey, and we were surprised about more than one thing that we learned. And we're going to try to do a survey of our members every year to 18 months. So we'll anticipate doing another one in 2025, and we'll talk about how that might work with the Climate Action Committee in a little bit. So I don't understand why it doesn't do that. Okay,
Hey,
so
Kathy?
we asked, I'm sorry, go
Are
ahead.
you taking questions or we wait till the end?
You can take, I'll take questions, sure.
What percentage of your EPRTAs are Massachusetts residents?
A large percentage, probably 40% or so. I have that demographic information. It's probably 40% or
Do you know
more.
roughly how many of them eventually become full-time residents?
We don't know the answer to, we didn't ask that question.
Okay.
So I don't have an answer for that, Mike.
Just curious if we knew how many intended to be here full-time at some point.
I think so I'll share with you at the end sort of my personal opinion about part-time residents and how to categorize them that you might want to think about. So we asked about priorities, and we gave them a set of things to pick from, and we asked them about priorities, you know, and so these are the top 5 priorities. You know, it was basically water, you know, beach water quality, amenities, you know, municipal water, ponds, the seashore, taxes, and wastewater and sewers. And then we asked them a specific question about how many are concerned or very concerned about climate change and resilience in Eastham, and 68% of the people, you know, either categorize it as concerned or very concerned, which I think is probably something that you would probably think is a good idea, right? So one of the things that I thought would be helpful to talk about here is we have a pretty well-developed now communication strategy for the organization. We've really worked on it over the last 18 months. And so we have a brand new website, right, that has public content and member content. We have a Facebook page, a public Facebook page. We send out newsletters, typically about 3 times a year, and we send it out both electronically to over 900 people, and we send printed copies to the remainder, who we are ardently trying to get them to change their selection on that. We do have an email blast strategy, and we send email blasts on a regular basis. We have an annual member survey, maybe not quite annual, but that's our objective. And we do have semi-annual member meetings. We have one in February, and we have one typically in July, although this coming year, 2025, it will be at the end of June, because the 4th of July, typically it's the first Saturday in July, but the 4th of July is like the preceding day, and you know, nobody, including a lot of the members and members of the town government and the select board who typically attend, are particularly interested in being there on July 4th weekend. So we have a lot of communication vehicles that we can leverage. So I gave a little bit of thought. Maybe this is a place we could spend a couple of minutes, which is how can EPRTA work with the Climate Action Committee? So the first thing I would say is we have a pretty big audience of concerned property owners. right? And they're clearly interested in climate issues. So the question, of course, what's the best way to reach them and to get them engaged? So one way to get them engaged is to use our website and Facebook channels to provide awareness of the Climate Action Committee's activities. So for example, and I can show you when we're done with this, we actually at Tom's suggestion, put on the calendar, both on our public page and on our private and our member only page, information about the electric vehicle car show that's coming up. I guess it's this Saturday, right? The 26th. So we've done that. And we've also posted information that I pulled off the web that obviously had been done perhaps as part of the solar workshop when it was held, which has, I don't know, 5 or 6 different presentations on various solar activities. I think it's from that. I don't know what the source of it is, but so we can use our communication vehicles to communicate out to our members on things that we'd like them to participate in and to know about. And then I think there are other ways to think about it. We are certainly interested in having someone come from the Climate Action Committee to either our February or June meeting. We're still working on the agendas for those. And we need to talk about, what it's February 5th and June 28th if you're taking notes. But another thing that we could also do is to suggest a couple of questions, not a lot, but a couple of questions for our 2025 survey, right? And there are probably other things that we can do over time. It's just a matter of doing some joint thinking about what the best way is to begin to approach this particular set of property owners. I mean, 1,200 people is a pretty big percentage of the town of Eastham, actually. So we need to make sure if climate's really a priority, and it certainly is for me, and for a lot of others here, how we can get them engaged and involved and participate in the various activities, and as well as be aware of the things that are going on that are being proposed and delivered by the Climate Action Committee. So that's all I came prepared to say. I can show you maybe. Let me stop sharing.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The 1,200 folks that are part of EPRTA, how many, is that 1,200 units? Or is that more than 1,200 units?
1,200 households.
Oh,
Okay, but none of those are properties that contain more than one household.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, there aren't very many properties in Eastham that have more than one household.
Okay.
But those 1,200 households are more than 1,200 people.
Mhm.
No, it's more than 1,200. It's way more than 1,200 people. Right. So as an example, my husband and I count as one.
Do you have
Right.
a feel for how many in those households? Has that been on your survey?
How many are there in the household? I don't know. And you have to be careful about the questions you ask too.
Good point.
At a certain point, you don't necessarily want to be particularly intrusive, I think is probably the right word. Just my thinking on that. I don't know how you ask that question. Honestly, I don't know how you ask that question.
Like,
How many people live in your house?
What's the size of your household?
Yeah, size of the house.
Yeah.
It would be interesting, only
Yeah.
because, it would be interesting to compare that to our survey results in terms of residents versus.
Well, the reason I asked my other
Yeah.
question is because I know of several properties which have rental units on the property. So.
Well, yeah, but I mean, those are rental units, right? In order to be a member of EPRTA, you have to be a property owner.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. The person owns the property, but on the property is more than one unit.
Correct.
So only that person is part of EPRTA potentially, if they don't live here, but they're doing just rentals, that's all. So,
I don't know how to answer that question, and I don't know how that's particularly relevant.
Oh,
Honestly.
just in terms of the number of, if you think about climate emissions and you think about, going electrifying properties, is it only just their principal location, or is it their principal location and a rental location on the same property? That's what I'm saying, is just trying to get a
Well, I
feel
mean, yeah, I
for-
mean, right, I mean, particularly, I mean, that's a fair
occupancy
point, that's
of-
a fair point, because especially in light of some of the housing initiatives that are being taken on by the town of Eastham, where they're looking at ADUs and the like, right, I think that is relevant.
Yeah,
But I mean,
again,
we're not counting like cottage colonies, for example.
right, so when we do our emissions footprint for the town of Eastham, we do it based upon individual unit emissions. So if there's multiple units on the same property, we want to make sure we're including everything, that's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
well, that's a fair point, yeah. So I think the only other thing I would say about part-time residents is the following, and Tom's heard this before from me, so you can be bored now, right? But I think that part-time residents fall into three categories. And I don't think that in general, there's much of an appreciation for the fact that there are three categories. So the first category is probably the category most people would think about, which is, I bought my home in Eastham, I'm going to rent my property during the summer because, I have to pay off the mortgage and I have to, I have to pay my kids' college tuition and, whatever, right? Then there's, and I probably don't spend a lot of time there either, right? I don't spend a lot of time because in order to make the money to pay the mortgage, you're renting your house. Then there's a second category of people who are, who have probably pretty much paid their mortgage, or they can afford to do that, or their kids aren't in college. I'm giving I personally am an example of the first category. When we first bought our home, we own our home for more than 20 years now. But many of them evolve into people who are not renting their homes, you can see in the statistics we got from the survey respondents that there are a lot of people who aren't renting their homes or aren't renting their homes anymore, right? I think that's what's an important characteristic here. And then there's a third category, and there are probably a pretty significant number of people who fit in that category also, who have inherited their homes. Or they're part-time residents, their parents own the home, their grandparents own the home, right? So they've never even gone through what I'll call the stage one, right? So I think when we think about gearing activities and gearing programs for part-time residents, you kind of need to keep in mind that not every part-time resident fits the mold that I think is in the minds of most people who are full-time residents in Eastham, right? So if I look at the block that I live on, it's admittedly not a huge block, but of the part-time residents on our block, nobody rents their house. So of the five households on our block, nobody rents their house at all, ever. Right? So either they personally occupy it, or members of their family are there on vacation. They're just not, they're not what I would describe as, I'll call it the category one, part-time residents. So think, and I just wanted to make that point because I feel like there is a perception, right, that everybody is in that category one. And what I would suggest to you is that most part-time residents are not in category one. Right? Many of them are there because they've bought their home with an intention, and this is to Mike's point, to retire there. Right. So I think that there's an opportunity here to think about a portion of the residents in Eastham that doesn't match the stereotype. I guess I would leave it at that.
Do you have any estimate for how many you've got in each of those categories at this point?
No, I mean, we may be asking some questions in our next survey that would help us to hone in on that a little bit. I mean, to be honest with you, when we heard that only 20% of the respondents were renting their homes, we were shocked. Honestly, that's a really small percentage
Yeah,
of a pretty decent response rate on the survey.
Right.
See, Kathy, the challenge for us collectively as a town is how do we make an adequate value proposition for the part-time residents to want to go more green at their properties? Since it's a secondary residence for them, they feel they only spend so much time here, so they may not want to make the investment because of that to go green. Yet when they're here, they're still contributing to the emissions that we have on both our natural resources as well as our overall energy usage. So we're
Right.
trying to figure out how do we convince and/or how do we work with the part-time folks to make it attractive for them, financially and, from a climate perspective, to want to be good stewards of their property, even though it's only part-time. That's, so that's why it's
Right.
important for us to engage. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing that I would say is when I talk to part-time residents, the one thing that they seem to be willing to talk about more and more is, other than talking about the fact about sewers, which isn't your purview, but is about solar, right? I mean, that's the one thing that people are beginning to want to talk about. Because frankly, I mean, I live in New York. I think that Eversource's electric rates are outrageous. I mean, they're just absolutely outrageous in comparison to what I pay in New York, which is, that's a pretty shocking piece of information, frankly. So, in order to mitigate that, the combination of talking about of continuing to promote solar and one of the things that we might want to think about doing collectively is to have some sort of a solar program at one of our meetings, or have a special solar, I don't know, presentation, a Zoom meal that we for our members only, right? You guys have done a lot of work in that regard, right? And an opportunity to talk about how you can begin to mitigate the costs from a financial point of view. What kinds of different, purchase versus lease versus, rent your roof versus, I don't know, the various different ways that you can acquire solar. I don't think it's particularly well known, honestly, and I think that there would probably be quite a bit of interest in that. So that's the one area that I think, if I look at what really triggers conversation, right, among part-time residents, that's the one. It's not EVs necessarily, though some are interested in that, right? Maybe an understanding of how you use heat pumps, right, as opposed to air conditioning. I mean, I think that there are things that you need to think about, particularly things that are cost factors for people who spend much of their time in the summer there, right, as opposed to necessarily people who care about what it's like in January, cold, that we could collaboratively think about.
So Kathy, thank you very much. This has been really interesting, and I think you provided a broad range of things that we can engage in. I took down a couple of notes here. One is we'll talk about a speaker for the upcoming meeting and whether you think the February or the June is better for you. I'm interested in when do you plan the survey? Is there a time frame yet?
It's usually in the spring.
Okay.
It's normally in the spring.
Okay, so we'll come up, we have a survey working group. We'll ask them to take a look at maybe suggesting some questions.
A few.
Couple, okay, like two, okay, I hear two there.
Maybe between 2 and 5.
Okay, okay,
That's right.
excellent. And then, I think you had also mentioned earlier, you might entertain possibilities of topics for the website or the newsletter. So we'll come up with some ideas for that,
Right.
to suggest.
So we had, so,
and-
so let me, we update the website about every 2 weeks. The newsletter only comes out about 3 times a year. And we just sent it out today, but the website's updated about every 2 weeks or more often if there's some things that are worthy of note.
Okay, because what I'm thinking is our climate action plan, which I had mentioned to you in our meeting, in our discussion, might be a great forum to have someone from EPRTA to be a rep on our working group, and provide that channel back and forth, because there's a lot of encapsulation of all that we're doing in terms of the climate the climate action, and can provide a lot of potential to grow from there into specific and more focused topics. So I throw that out to you.
So let me see. I mean, I try to participate in these meetings on a I've been to the last several of them. But if you want somebody to participate in the working group, it's probably not me, since I own the website too. I will see if I can come up with somebody and get back to you on that, Tom.
Okay, that'd be great. And then I think our solar working group is already, I can see the nods around the table, very excited about what you offered in terms of doing a solar topic, and perhaps that's either on Zoom, or perhaps that's an add-on to your in-person meeting in June. I'm thinking earlier might be better, maybe a Zoom meeting.
I think so too. I think you're going to, the benefit of having a Zoom meeting as opposed to waiting for it to be in person is we post those Zoom meetings on our website. People can watch them when they have time. We can send out an email blast that says we have this coming, and then we can do a follow-up on that says, and it's been recorded, and here's where you can read it, so that you can get more participants. You're always going to get more participants than if you wait to do it in person.
What would be a typical length of one of your Zoom meetings that you'd recommend?
An hour.
Okay.
I mean, it may be that there needs to be more than one, but you need to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You need to start with like the primer, right?
Zoom, so each Zoom meeting is one topic. So when you say an hour, it would be an hour on solar in this.
Yeah, I think in this particular case, that's what we would. I mean, we have member meetings on Zoom that cover a lot of topics, but we can sponsor a Zoom meeting on a specific topic. And this is one I think that would be valuable, and as well as generate interest from our members.
And so should the follow-up on that be with you directly, Kathy?
For now, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Kathy. I know oh, yes.
Kathy, so I'm curious how people come to learn about your organization. I'm wondering, there might be a lot of folks who are part-time residents who just haven't, not aware of your organization. And also, forgive me if you said, how do y'all define part-time? Can you be here 10 months out of the year and gone 2 and you're part-time, or is there a...
Yeah. That's a really interesting question, which causes a lot of controversy. But anyway, the way we define it is people whose tax bills go somewhere else.
Okay.
Right. So people whose tax bills are not delivered to an Eastham address in general. Right. And so we basically have been trying to do quite a bit of outreach more over the last maybe year and a half or so. So when people buy homes in Eastham, they get a letter from us, which basically, using the criteria I just described, they get a letter from us that invites them to join. But there are a lot of people who I think probably throw it in the trash because, what's by experience, you meet people and you say, well, do you live here full time or you live here part time? And you say, well, do you belong to EPRTA? And they're like, what's that? Right. So we're starting an sort of an outreach. We've changed a lot of the officers of the organization. So we're going to continue to work on that. We have, we were at Windmill Weekend this year. We actually were across the aisle from Tom and Mike, at least when I was there. So we're trying to do outreach in a whole variety of ways. But if you guys have any suggestions, we would welcome them, really seriously, because the more people we have who are members of the organization, the more people you're going to be able to reach in a consolidated way.
Okay, thank you.
And this is fantastic because this is definitely an item that we, as I say, has been on our agenda to try to fill in a huge gap that we have. So this is very exciting.
Thank you.
So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Good to meet you, Kathy.
So next up is really I think a short administrative kind of update in terms of our select board charge update. It's something we had quite a bit of discussion on all the way through. I think it was April of last year. Roberta, is that about right? And let me see if I hit the right button here. I'm just going to do a screen. And the document that I sent out is the last document that we discussed, and I believe it is capturing the comments that were made at that April meeting. Roberta gave me some of those updates, and Roberta, I made a couple of additional quick fixes on here, but primarily it was reflecting from the April meeting anyway, reflecting that it's a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, not just carbon footprint. So that was fixed. And also including that we're addressing the municipality in addition to residents and businesses. So those were the main areas of update from the prior publication. There was also one more down below that I caught. It said task force. We don't have a task force, we have a committee, so I fixed that. So that essentially is what we want to take to the town. We'll include it in the select board briefing. I've already talked to Jerry about this. And what I wanted to do is do a quick, if everyone is okay with this, I would entertain a motion to present this as is to the town for with our recommendation to change our committee charge.
Motion to approve as amended.
Do we have a second?
Second it.
All right. So let's take
Vote.
take a vote. All in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed? Okay. Very good. Motion passes as is. Thank you. Yes.
I would just change town administrator to town manager.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Is it 5 then?
So that would be, okay, it's probably by the town manager. Okay, thank you.
It says it in 2 spots at the beginning.
It should be 7 members.
So it's
In the membership and the staff support.
right here,
Isn't there, isn't, let's see.
right? And then
Okay.
under, oh, okay, yes, and then
Just
staff
change
support right
that.
below it.
We had changed that.
Did we change that? I guess I missed that. Okay,
Thank you for catching.
so
So
again, is
do we
everyone
need to
okay
say
with the-
number?
I'm sorry?
Do we need to say the number 5 or can we just say citizen members?
Well, okay.
Oh.
This charge was created by the town,
Yes,
so we're not writing an original document, we are,
right, I understand asking
Yes.
them to amend theirs,
right,
right?
right, exactly, so that's how they describe membership, so.
Okay.
yes. Yeah, so.
But we
I
went
think-
back and asked them to change the number, right?
Can I say something historically?
Yes, that, because I now it's an.
We
it's-
don't have an alternate any longer.
I know.
We increased the number and they voted on this.
Yeah, I'm.
So
just-
however many members you have, I think it might be 7, because I think we had 2 alternates. So the number of members have been increased without an alternate. That was the trade-off.
So you wanna, Tom,
I
add,
gotta fix that.
Brad, just, you cross out 5 citizen members plus 1 alternate.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just, so they understand you're changing it, we are changing it to 7 members.
Yes.
Yes,
with
yeah,
3
yeah,
year overlapping.
yeah.
terms.
I completely missed that. I didn't even look at the.
But
So
it should be
that is a-
pointed out to them that they've already voted on this. You're not asking to change it.
Good point, good point. Okay. Okay, so with those changes, we'll vote one more time.
Still motion.
All right, motion to adopt as amended. All right, do we have a second on that?
Second that.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Very good.
I'm not opposed, but the methods, the methods to reduce the communities. I'm just wondering if that might be phrased more positively to increase the community's capacity too. I mean, I'm fine with the way it is. I mean, it's fine the way it is, but just make it a positive statement.
Positive.
Yeah, it's fine the way
I
it
get
is.
what you're saying.
Yeah, it's fine the way it is. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
okay.
that's fine.
It's a good point. I'm not sure how I guess we were trying to minimize the amount of changes and,
Sure.
yeah, and I
Yeah,
see what
yeah,
you're saying.
got it.
but- Okay, but if we're okay with the way it is,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it too, but we added energy to the chart. You know,
Yes,
energy
correct.
and climate.
Correct.
And did I miss there's rationale for that?
yes, the rationale is that well, first of all, most of the committees like us on the Cape are energy and climate, which opens up a channel into additional options. In fact, there's a meeting coming up soon on the energy and climate, the energy committees of the Cape. And plus it it dovetails very well with what we do, because reducing greenhouse gases is also an opportunity to improve energy efficiency.
And I think the fact that it's consistent with other places on. the
Are you
island
looking at things other than
makes sense.
solar though?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, correct.
such as?
Geothermal. Yeah. Okay, very good. Next up, I was gonna change the order just a little bit if y'all are okay. I'll put the greenhouse gas inventory down a little bit further. And what I wanted to do is let Mike talk about the EV Touch and Learn first. And you all have the slides, which I think is, my own opinion is I think they look very thorough and very well reviewed. I think there was opportunities for everyone to review them. But Mike, why don't you, talk about what's
It's
coming up?
Saturday
Very
morning at the-
exciting,
Saturday
for
morning, 10
that.
o'clock, the Snow Library will have 6 vehicles to show. And I will give an in-brief that's about a half an hour long, and then it's just move out and talk to the owners. Ask them questions about their vehicles, what they like, what they don't like, how they drive them, how they charge them, where they take them. You know,
No test drives.
no test drives. No, sorry. So yeah, the vehicles will be located in the back of the Snow Library parking area. We've asked the attendees to park up at the middle school, at the Nauset Middle School. Because there's another event starting at around 1 o'clock that's gonna try to occupy some of the parking area too, so we just wanna make sure we're out of their way. And we're in the large room, the Marion room. Marion something room.
Mike, the Orleans Climate Action Network, they are.
Is sponsoring,
promoting
co-sponsoring,
it in
yes.
conjunction with Eastham. So
Correct.
it's also being promoted in Orleans.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is, that's correct.
That's great. That's the
And
way to go.
their climate action committee would also do that, except the timing of when they meet and when we proposed this didn't align, so. But John Londa is very well aware of what we're doing and supports it, so. Who's Tom's counterpart.
And a second running of that coming
Yeah,
up.
so then we've also been invited by the Elks. We'll be doing another event there on December 7th, a Saturday, toward the latter part of their weekly meat raffle. So they invited us to come there, and still trying to get a couple more vehicles for that one. Since some of the ones who can support the one Saturday are not available in December to support it, so.
Do you need any additional volunteers to come and help?
No, there's nothing to do. It's just me talking, to, briefing, as you saw. Of course, you don't have my comments or notes that I plan to discuss, but.
You trying to capture who shows up with a sign-in list of some sort?
No,
No.
no, just open. I wanted to make it simple for folks. They don't even have to pre-register. So whoever shows up, we'll figure it out. If it's overwhelming, then we'll make some changes for December. If it's underwhelming, then we'll probably make some changes for December.
Do we want to put a sign-up sheet? Not to be too intrusive, but
I guess we could have one.
people want to get on our email list. I think it's been a nice growing list and a good opportunity to be able to touch people.
I'll leave it up to you guys. If you want me to put out an email list, I'm happy to put out an email list. Or sign up list or sign in list, or like we did at Windmill Weekend. Always good.
Yeah, I think that'd be great myself. Just to get an idea how many people come and people who want to volunteer to be on our list.
Yeah, so the vehicles are actually from Wellfleet, Eastham, Orleans, and West Yarmouth. And I think that's it.
Will there be anything like I don't know, like a cheat sheet for each one of the automobiles that sort of summarizes what they are, nothing like that? Okay.
I want people to interact.
Yep.
I just want people to talk and interact, ask questions, one-on-one. So we have all the vehicles, doors will be open, the hood will be open, the boot will be open. And they can sit inside and walk around, and we're there just to ask questions and show folks why the six of us anyway are enthusiastic about our vehicles and wouldn't drive anything else.
So if we wanted to encourage people that we know to might be considering the electric vehicles, should we just take like a snapshot of this initial first slide, which gives the information, or is there a flyer that?
There's a flyer that's been published and has gone out to everybody, so if you didn't get it, it should have been, everyone should have got it.
It would have been an email blast from our committee.
Yes, yeah.
So I must have it.
Yeah, you should have it in your inbox.
Yeah, if you don't, if you like, I can send that out again.
I'll find it.
Okay,
In fact,
okay.
maybe it should go out this week again.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah. I will send that out again. Thank you. It's very exciting, and I know I've talked to the Chamber of Commerce about it here, and they're very interested in having the event run at the chamber.
It's an interesting time
Yeah.
because, they're not as popular as they were when the early adopters started to ramp them up. And I have purposely resisted discussing plug-in. I'm going to discuss plug-in hybrids, but we're not going to show plug-in hybrids because I believe that's the worst of both worlds, personally, because you just adding more complexity. In the last surveys I've read, people that don't plug in hybrids aren't even plugging them in, just you're driving them like regular vehicles. So why have one?
Very good. Fantastic. This is very exciting, Mike. So yeah, thanks. And everyone has seen the charts. Any issues, questions on the charts?
I got feedback from folks, Harriet and
Good.
You and others.
Excellent.
The folks that are showing their cars also have the package, made some comments, so I've
Excellent.
incorporated all those.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Okay. Let's go to the Climate action plan, next steps?
All right. We, as we've talked about in the previous meeting, we are fortunate to be getting some help from the Cape Cod Commission in developing a climate action plan for Eastham. We are still awaiting a written document from them, which will hopefully outline the scope of work and the plan from the Cape Cod Commission, including a public outreach plan. I assume that that is going to be coming soon. And I think perhaps maybe an inquiry would not be a bad idea as to when that might appear. In the meantime, we have established a working group within our committee, which has been comprised of Tom, myself, Harriet, and Gary. Making sure that we keep under a certain number under quorum. And we met for the first time last week. It was, I think, a productive meeting in a lot of ways, and just sort of trying to encapsulate how we see this thing moving forward. And one of the things we did is we thought through a little bit more about what some plans might look like, what our plan might look like after reviewing other towns' plans. And so we had a lot of discussion on two particular plans, the East Hampton and the Acton plans that we particularly like the structure of. So got some really, really good ideas on that. We also talked about Tom's and my meeting a couple days before with Karen Strauss. Karen is the chair of the Conservation Commission. She's also on the Strategic Planning Committee. She was also the chair of the North Eastham Village Plan. So Karen knows her stuff. And it was a really, I think, important opportunity to have some connection with the adaptation piece of our climate action plan. And we got some very good information from Karen, namely that apparently the Cape Cod Commission has written a coastal resiliency bylaw model. And my understanding is that it would be bylaws that towns could have their town meeting vote on that would make changes in how coastal property is managed, assuming a model of what the world will look like in 2050. And so the details are not clear, but it is interesting that the town is looking to kind of create these bylaws. And I understand that the planning committee and Karen and some others are going to be talking about this next week, just the beginning meetings on what a bylaw might look on that. So my guess is that whatever transpires with that would eventually be in our climate action plan. I thought very interesting. What else?
Roberta, it would
Yeah.
be a bylaw, is that what you're saying?
I don't know whether it is a bylaw or several bylaws, but it's relating to coastal resiliency and how we're going to try protecting our coasts,
Okay.
looking at models from 2050.
Got it.
The final thing that we talked about was going through some ideas about what we'll call stakeholders in this plan, thinking through about who we want to make sure to engage the plan. And there were three groups of players that we're thinking would be very important. First of all, is the staff and the municipal players and our committees. The third is our local, we'll call leaders, for example, part-time resident organization, the chamber, others that are clearly connected to the community. And then just basic, regular, ordinary folks and what we'll call Joe Public, whatever. That it's important to have some connection with all of them so everybody has a say, has an impact, and is engaged in the plan. I think it was a good first meeting. I don't know, Tom, if you have anything else or Harriet, anything to add on that?
One other thing we discussed was, I guess, the emissions inventory and just how particularly the transportation sector, how those numbers were developed. So I think we were gonna do perhaps ask for clarification from the, what,
Yes,
association,
exactly.
organization, like,
Right,
whoever
right.
the, just that, I don't think, we don't need to get deep into the black box, but just what are some of the basic assumptions? And so I better understand it, and also we're conveying that information, just to say this is where those numbers were derived.
Yeah, we tossed around a little the ideas about, okay, we have this inventory, but in an actual written plan that the public sees, how much are you really including from that inventory that's digestible for people?
Mm.
So that was another topic.
Yeah,
Same way with the
agreed.
survey.
And as you say, a lot of good potential, I think, for interfacing with the Conservation Committee. And there's a lot of nice overlap there. And also I'll say, I'm glad Andrew is here today. You know, we have the, I think also a very good opportunity to interact with the Recycling Committee. You know, it opened up the potential for some collaboration there. So again, anytime the Recycling Committee would like to get a briefing on what's going on coming up on the Climate Action Plan.
Yes,
we'd be happy
specifically
to do
objective
that.
4, we're interested in. So
Yeah,
if there's
yeah.
like another group, you guys are having a side meeting or something, you just wanna loop me in somehow that I
That'd be
can
great.
show up just to understand, because I'm working right now with I don't want to derail this, but I've been working with Coastal Conservation. I met them at Windmill Weekend. Cape Cod Coastal Conservation or something like that. I met somebody who wasn't related to erosion, but I was like, can I get in contact with somebody really hard in erosion? And so I'm working on trying to get in contact with them about how much sand and how much compost would be needed to be generated to combat erosion within Eastham. That way I can justify a digester and a bottle breaker to handle glass and compost. Because right now there's a law in place that technically businesses have to compost, but there's no way to enforce it because there's nowhere for them to compost. If we put a digester in, enforcement can become a thing. And then we can say, well, now we're making all this dirt and we can use it to combat erosion, or I'm sorry, not dirt, compost. But yeah, we can use it for combating erosion, I'm hoping. But again, I need to get those numbers. So if you guys can include me on whatever that is, just to get in on it, so I can say, like, we're working on this as well, then I can push to get that stuff for the swap shop, or not swap shop, for the transit station, which again reduces greenhouse emissions because we're not shipping the glass off Cape, we're not shipping the compost off Cape to be processed somewhere else.
Well, my guess is that solid waste would definitely be part of the climate action plan.
Yeah, and we're in charge of reducing solid waste,
That's
so
right,
I hope to, yeah, tribute
Recycling
any way
committee
we
is
can.
certainly what we'll call a stakeholder.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to bother me about it, because I'd love to be involved.
That'd be great. All right, well, very good. Any other questions on the climate action plan? And there'll be a lot more information coming up as we, as Roberta said, as we get the detailed working plan from the commission. And we'll also be
Just
talking
to-
about that with select board coming up.
Just to answer the question about the erosion, so we, as part of a coastal resiliency grant that the town had for several years, calculated the amount of beach sand nourishment that we put on the beach every year in Eastham, and that totaled 9,000 cubic yards. Just about, roughly, every year. So that's all the sand that's kind of dumped in front of all the properties along Cape Cod Bay every spring.
Do they have an environmental survey as to whether silicon dioxide sand will impact it, since most of the sand on the Cape is calcium carbonate or calcium carbide?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, I just don't want to dump sand that's not going to be good for the natural environment as well.
Right, yeah.
So
No,
that's the other
exactly.
piece of information I still need to get from them. But this is a good information too. Thank you very much.
It's gonna move anyway.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I don't know what's.
Or Welford.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not dumping something that's going to cause a problem.
Let's talk to the oyster people. So
What's that?
let's talk to the oyster people.
Well, I'll talk to like I said, I'll talk to them more about how much of the sand is that, how much of the sand isn't that. I just know it is not all sand that could be used like that. So we could also make sand batteries for solar power storage as a community with that sand. There's a lot of things being done with it scientifically. I just don't know how much we have the resources to do in the town.
Pretty
Okay,
interesting.
well, great. Thanks, Roberta. And then why don't you continue on with the green communities
Sure.
discussion?
Sure, this is also something we talked about last time. As you know, Eastham became a green community in 2022, not so long ago. It's already reaped the benefits of that through a grant that's helped us do a number of updates relating to energy conservation in our town buildings. The Department of Energy Resources are responding to the new climate law and roadmap relating to moving Massachusetts to net zero by 2050. And so it is pivoting from the concept of energy reduction, which is really what the Green Communities program has been about, to actual reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. And so it's offering a new program called the Climate Leader Communities Certification Program. It operates similar to the Green Communities, where a municipality that wants to become part of the program needs to follow, satisfy certain criteria in order to be part of the program. The benefit of the program, again, is about funding to help community move forward in its greenhouse gas reductions in all areas, buildings, vehicles, every aspect. So it is requiring for this new program 6 criteria. And I did send out this information. I hope you had a chance to look at it. I think right now Eastham is pretty well situated for applying for this new program that will offer a lot of funding opportunities. The 6 categories are, you have to be a green community in good standing. I've included that we are, I'm assuming we have submitted our annual report and actually that's not January, back in November we did, so we'll be doing another one. You need to have a local body that advises the town on clean energy and climate resiliency. And certainly Eastham has the Eastham Climate Action Committee.
Energy.
Yes, indeed.
Oils.
It has to commit to eliminating by 2050 on-site fossil fuel use by municipal buildings and operations. And we have passed Article 34, which is the climate policy, a declaration of climate emergency that does have language that apparently satisfies that requirement. I did check with the Green Communities on that, and the director said that she read the language. She says we would indeed qualify for that particular criterion. The 4th one is you have to create a municipal decarbonization roadmap. And that's essentially going through all of your public buildings and making a plan for decarbonizing. And it's basically a plan. It's not a commitment, but what they want you to do is how you're going to plan over the course of years to, for example, when something is worn out, you make a change so that it's electrified, for example. Anyway, the 5th one is you need a zero emission vehicle policy, meaning that you are committing to, when you replace vehicles, that they will be zero emission vehicles. Again, it's not set in stone, but you have to show that you're moving forward on that. And then finally, you have to adopt a specialized opt-in building code. Fortunately, Eastham did that, which I think is a very positive thing in terms of being competitive for the designation, because a lot of towns have not yet reached that change. So we would really, from what I can see, we would qualify for 4 of these 6, which is very positive. The next great opportunity is that because a decarbonization planning, it could be difficult for towns, particularly small towns. They're offering financial assistance through a grant where they offer consultants that can come into a town and help the town develop the roadmap. Hence qualifying for number 4. And it's I looked at the application. It doesn't seem particularly onerous. You have to certify certain things. The town manager has to sign off on it. I'm hoping that we all see that this is something we want to encourage the town. And I did pass it on to Shayna. I don't know if they had an opportunity to take a look at what you're thinking about that deadline. I know that they're offering it in several times during the year, but this one's coming up in a month.
Mhm. I mean, it seems doable. It seems like it's basically gathering all of the paperwork and data that we already kind of have to demonstrate that we do meet that criteria. The only thing, I was looking through the green community sort of sheet that goes through all those 6 items, and it says you have to meet all of them. And like you said, the one thing we don't have is that roadmap. So I'm not sure if they would work with us concurrently, or do we need to have that completed first before we can then get the designation?
Well, you say we don't have the roadmap. That is true. But the purpose, the whole idea behind the grant is to create the roadmap.
And then like the 3rd paragraph or 3rd or 4th paragraph from the bottom, no town will have all 6 as number 4 is the focus of the grant.
So
Okay, I missed that.
Yeah, the focus of the grant is to get a town a roadmap.
Okay,
They're
I
helping
see.
towns get that accomplished.
As part of it, okay. All right, so yeah, otherwise, I mean, it seems like we have everything else, I would think. It's just a matter of getting that all together and compiling it into one document and sending it off and getting a signature, obviously, and like a letter of request to be considered to get the designation.
Would you see this as something doable over the next month?
Yeah, I mean, it seems doable. And if they don't approve it, I mean, like you said, there's more opportunities to apply, but it sounds like we have everything. And if there's any documentation that they see that is not sufficient, we can work on making it more official. But it's like, we just probably have to get certification from the town clerk on the 2022 vote. And, the efficient vehicles purchase policy that we had from Green Communities.
Yeah, it is a little different. The one for the green communities, it's committing to, it's committing in a little different way with the vehicles, but you don't even have to show that you've done it yet. You have to just state that you intend to do it.
Okay, which I'm sure that would be fine to do, so.
Shayna, is that something that have to go before Jackie to kind of get the ball rolling on it, or what needs to?
When we had the meeting with Jackie, you had mentioned it, I think, and she was supportive of going forward with it. So I think as long as we compile all of the information, make a cover letter, with, stating that we intend to do that, and, anything else that is required of the program that we're gonna go forward and would like to move forward with the roadmap, then she could sign it as the official applicant. Did you get any idea as to how much it would cost to get that roadmap, like what the town's contribution to that grant would be?
Zero.
Okay.
Zero.
All right, yeah, so it
Except
seems
time, of
pretty
course.
doable to me.
Yeah.
So Shana, next steps, what can we help you with? Or do you want to take this, or you want us to provide an outline to get started?
Yeah, I mean, you guys wrote a very nice letter requesting the Cape Cod Commission's support. So if you have any bullet points that you want included, I can work on gathering the certified vote for the town meeting, and any of the other paperwork on our end that we could include as a supplement with that letter. I had to look at the application. I don't know if there's like a form that you need, so I can look into it more in depth.
Yeah,
But
here it is. I can send it right. It was in some of the material I sent you, but I sent you a lot.
Okay, yeah, I looked through a lot of it, but I missed that.
It's,
It's only a couple pages.
not very long, at
Okay.
all.
Fill in the blank kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Okay,
So this is state money?
This is state
Yeah.
money, yeah. And this opens up the opportunity for the next round, kind of Green Communities 2.0 grants coming in.
So state money not dependent upon federal money.
Correct.
No, not at all. No,
Okay.
this is state money. And you can use it for, a lot of things. You can use it for electrification,
I just know if the state money
decarbonization,
was coming from the feds.
support for
No,
solar,
state
support
money.
for
Like-
solar.
Like the solar for all.
Yeah,
A lot of innovative projects there.
Yeah.
Yeah, to $500,000. Oh,
and it's good that we don't have to be,
After
we-
election.
we don't have to do all those projects as part of
Keep it
Green
solid.
Communities from when we originally got the certification. We just have to be in good standing, so that's good.
exactly, which I believe we are. So,
Yeah, I think we are.
okay, I'll follow up.
Sounds good.
And I'll just note that it's similar to what's being done in Mass Save in terms of the administrator's focus on not just energy efficiency, but greenhouse gas reduction. And the difference is that, for instance, you can't just replace your old oil burner with a more efficient oil burner today and get, any credit for that or any rebates for that. That's a similar kind of focus here is really measuring. They want to measure greenhouse gas reduction. So very positive move. All right, thanks, Roberta. That is fabulous.
Just a quick comment on that. I wonder if it remains to be seen with the roadmap where that fits in with the climate action plan, and so that we're included. I should think we would do one of the municipal buildings to decarbonize them in some way. So it'd be nice, maybe that's an action item and we get some funding for it, and
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, so it
Exactly,
ties in
exactly.
completely with the climate action.
Yeah,
plan.
looks really well. Okay. Next one I want to show you is the and get some ideas on the thoughts for the select board briefing. And this package was in the this slide deck was in the package. And I'm not going to go through every slide here in detail. You can kind of see the overall approach. The date hasn't been set yet, but we believe it's going to be November 5th, most likely. Those were of the 2 dates, I think, that Jackie was throwing out. One was today, and then the other was the 5th. I guess that would, is that election day?
I think it, isn't it?
No, it's on a Monday. The meeting is.
This is Monday, so yeah,
Okay.
6
The
must
day
be,
before the election.
yeah, day
Yeah.
before. Roughly a 20-minute slot, which is very generous. What Jerry suggested to me today was, be brief, like 5 minutes of talk and then 15 minutes of Q&A, and let the select board kind of guide where it's going. So that's we'll have to figure out how we do all that. But essentially what I'm going to do is flash up the charge, and then at the end, it's going to be flashing up the change in the charge. We'll flash up the committee membership. And I wanted to include the fact that we had citizen volunteers, which is awesome, and we have working groups. The focus in terms of what we've done, I'll flash up the goals, but I really want to get to a chart like this, which is what do we want to include as what we've accomplished in the past. Really, it's 12 months. It's not just the calendar year 2024, but I think it's been a year approximately since the last briefing to the select board. And in discussing this, let me see if I make this bigger. Will you see that bigger? No, I guess not. I put down some initial ideas on in each of these categories, but I don't know that I've got everything, and I want to make sure that I throw that out to everybody as to make sure we've captured what we've done in terms of progress.
So
Mike?
my goal 3 You got my comment,
Yes, I
Okay.
did. Thank you. Yeah.
so.
Yep.
The comment was to add that we've probably gotten over a dozen residents, households in the town to adopt solar through our outreach efforts. And I was trying to understand, try to calculate, I think that's about 20% of the attendees that we've had between the clinic and the workshop who are Eastham residents. So I know we had out of town people at both, so I was trying to figure out how many people were just Eastham residents in the 12 folks within Eastham against that number. I was thinking about 20%.
Yeah.
So.
And I did include here on this page, Mike, the specifics of the workshop and then the clinic. I think I had counted about 30. Does that sound about right?
30 what?
For the clinic.
30 at the clinic?
Yeah, no, but I'm
Right.
saying, how many of those are Eastham residents? That's why I was just saying, the people in town that have adopted, again, unique to
Yeah,
Eastham.
yeah.
That's what I was saying, it was a dozen out of X, and I was guessing X out of the 130 was about 70-ish. So that's what I was guessing.
Tom, your idea behind this PowerPoint is more of a read ahead of time, that it'll be submitted to
That's-
them and.
Yes,
Friday, so that
exactly.
if they can, they'll read it ahead of time.
Exactly.
Because I doubt if you're gonna be spending
No, I won't.
discussion on
Right.
every bullet point in here.
No,
And
this
it's
is
not gonna-
more, this is more for
Yeah.
the record, and what I'm gonna do is just say, hey, we've done tremendous amount of work, against these goals. You can see what the details up on the screen and in the package. But yeah, just talk more generically about the goals.
Yes. I mean, this is wordsmithing a little bit, but progress against goals, I think it's just progress towards goals.
Oh,
It's
good.
more forward thinking or.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
2024 goals.
And that's a good point. These are the 2024
Right.
goals. Okay.
Yeah, when are we gonna do 25?
So typically we do that in the beginning of the year, January timeframe, I think.
Then we've done it December.
Or December. Maybe we do it December then. All right, well, let's talk about that towards the end here.
I
Board's
wonder-
meeting.
Tom, if under goal 3, if we want to talk about what you in particular have been active on the community solar discussions with the town and
Oh.
others. And we don't have a sort of shiny delivery of something for that, but it's been important activity, I think.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna discuss that, so it's up
Right.
to Tom, whether he wants to include it or not.
I think discussions with the town on solar is
Mm-hmm.
good. I would say that whether it becomes community solar or not is still a point to figure out, but it's
Right, well,
moot.
that's
but
what
it's
I told
moot now.
John And, at our meeting, at John and Jack at our meetings, that when I talked to Rich, about proposing new municipal solar, and then having a set aside for that new solar being for Eastham, environmental justice, people under the area median income, a certain percentage would have access to it first.
Right,
Rich would rather determine what the best value is for the town.
right.
And then how to help out the folks in town that need the help versus setting aside specific solar for a certain population in the town, so.
Yeah. I think that's still a good discussion in progress, but no decisions made.
No,
But I
right.
think your point on, hey, we have been supporting the town in those discussions with the vendors and the RFPs and all that. I think that's an excellent point. I'll get that in there. All right, well, I don't want to prolong this, but please take a look if you haven't yet, and just shoot me any thoughts of things that I should include here. Also with the outreach to the community, I think I got most of the items here that we've done. Again, this is roughly in the last 12 months. But if I've missed anything, please, shoot that over to me and I'll get that on the chart.
You might want to put that
Yeah.
on the top for over the last 12 months.
Okay, good point.
Don't have the EV workshop.
Yeah, I guess by the time we brief this, that will have
It's gonna happen
happened.
much
Yeah,
longer.
yeah, yeah. Do you want to call it a workshop or a
No,
car show or?
Just a car show, yeah, EV car show.
I think
Actually,
car show is a really
touch
catchy
and
term,
look.
so in my opinion.
I see now that you're including all the things we have done over the last couple of years. It's not just this year. I see you have the.
In
library
some,
speaker series.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
And then I'm gonna show, and these are, I'll say work in progress. I've grabbed the things that, that we put together for the One Cape, just to talk about the climate action plan. Kind of combine the framework, again, just to flash up there, not to talk. This one, I was starting to combine items, the strategic plan, the inventory, the survey. These will get updated as we're doing, if we're doing the discussions today in the next meeting. So that's, and then the survey group provided some good overview slides for the survey.
Tom, going back to the question about the time frame, this is framed as a yearly review with the select board.
Yes,
But you're covering material that's not just within the calendar year?
correct.
Okay.
Well, it's a 12-month update, but the special focus is going to be on the climate action plan and the survey and the inventory that and a little bit about the strategic plan, right, that went into that. All right. So, and then I'll put up the a summary on the charge. And I think the rationale again is focused on energy efficiency, just to maybe I should say to complement greenhouse gas reduction.
Can we go back to
Sure,
the climate survey report overview?
that would be this one here.
Yeah, so maybe, and this kind of just, but, maybe calling out a little bit more the result that 62% of people found that they're supportive, they think significant changes are made to the way we all live now.
You
So
make that pop a little bit more.
Make that pop.
Okay.
A little bit more, I don't know, getting into the weeds at this point in time, whatever. I'm just saying an example of survey results analysis. And the next slide, relatively low support for programs to boost use of personal electric vehicles. I don't know if that's true, but maybe it's early days. Yeah, so if we were to include in the plan something about encouraging people to the town to help support people to acquire EVs, then I don't know if we're kind of, if that might work against us in the future. I mean, it's true, but I just don't know if we want to, at this point in time, telegraph that and call that out. Because that was a survey but maybe as we go through this process, maybe there's some misunderstanding. I just don't know if we want to build in some potential early opposition to some of the strategies we might call for the plan by saying their survey found there wasn't a lot of support for it.
So I mean, perhaps maybe in line with saying, making things a little more positive, saying, here's some of the things that we might be doing with some of the survey results, right? That we need to work on electric vehicles because we're finding a low support for that, low understanding.
The things to do that would also simplify the chart is just focus on the things people are supporting.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it's for our discussion to figure out.
Okay.
I mean, like
The top 5 or something like that.
electric charging at the beaches and stuff like that. I mean, there's probably the majority of the respondents have gas vehicles, right? I'm sure if everybody had
Right.
EVs, there would be much more support for that.
Well, and part of what we're doing with these results, it's a good point here, first of all, is another way to look at that is the relatively low support is an opportunity and something to be explained.
Mhm.
And that's part of
Sure.
what Jack and I have been trying to do, is sort of look at comments and some other parts of the results of the survey to see what's really going on here, and is there a broader explanation, and is this in fact an opportunity for something where we can grow activity? So it kind of, but it's incumbent upon us to interpret it that way, or to look at it.
Okay, those were great suggestions. So perhaps John, you and Jack can take a look at, how you want to update that.
Sure. Yeah.
Or if you even need to include it at this. Right.
Well, I think
Getting
it
into the
does.
Weeds about the survey.
Well, it does jive with what what Jerry was asking today, which is, can you tell us how you're going to use the survey? What does it really mean for us?
Yeah, and you've got to say that in a nutshell verbally.
Right.
Right.
Not this, because this is not.
Yeah, exactly.
Useful, I guess, but it's not answering the question.
There's a lot of volume on that page, but it doesn't,
That's a good way to say it. Yeah. The survey report is so rich in really good information. And Jerry was very happy with getting getting that, taking a look at it. But I think part of our strategy here was to whet their appetite, let's say, for going in and looking in the survey and doing a deeper dive themselves.
Is Jerry asking specifically about use for the climate action plan, or more
For the
broadly?
town.
For the town,
Yeah.
in general, okay.
Okay. Good.
So Tom, you got 5 minutes, which is nothing. I mean.
That's my introduction. Hi, I'm Tom.
Absolutely.
5 minutes. is like-
So what do we really need to accomplish that evening with this, other than, beforehand, they'll have this good report, which will give them some detailed reflection on what we've been doing over the last couple of months. But what do we need? What do we want to come out of this? What
Well,
approval or feedback?
one thing is
Yeah.
certainly checking the box to say that we gave them a yearly update.
Yes.
Right, and to show them some of the good things we've been doing. So that's very, very good. Second is getting their, I'll say, up check, or at least lack of any objection to us posting the survey report. Because I think it's an excellent report, and that's this is something that Jackie did ask, is that we want to make sure that the select board has a look at it first before we post it. So that's the second part. And then the third part is just making them aware that the climate action plan is coming, what it involves, and give them a chance to ask questions about the action plan and any steering that they may want to do in how we're approaching that, because we want the town to be involved, and I want them to understand that the town would be involved here, and not just a 7-person volunteer committee that's going to draw up a great plan.
And to get approval on the charge, the change in the charge.
Oh, and you're right, and ultimately right, which is the next.
I don't know what their process is. I know they make changes on committee charges regularly. Maybe they do it in one meeting.
Jerry indicated that they may, he said they may, but I think it was most likely they would take our inputs and then review that, and then at the next meeting vote for the adoption of that change.
Would you even insert a slide and saying this is the goal of presentation? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say the goal of the charge.
I
but-
mean, you can speak to that, but the 1, 2, 3.
Good idea.
That's actually a very good idea. Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah,
Right,
okay.
I would do that. I would also
Yeah.
say, if you could only walk away with one of those 4 things, which would it be?
Just tell them what you're gonna tell them and tell them.
If you started talking and the building started to crumble and they said we have to have one item, which would it be?
Oh, I see. That's a good
You
question.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's, we got a lot of stuff. we're doing this great stuff and we're excited and we want to promote it. But I think, in my view, a deliverable, so the deliverable is approval on the plan to post the results of the survey. And I think, based on what I heard you say, that's the thing I would vote for.
And it certainly is most timely. We've been working on that, Jack and John have been working on it very hard. And I think that needs to get out. Absolutely.
You don't feel like it has to.
No, I'm just kidding.
So we said the three things, it's about
We'll
the
leave.
CAC charge.
Yes.
How we're gonna use the survey and whether we can post it.
Mhm.
Third is awareness of the climate action plan and how that's moving
Right.
forward. And was there another one?
It was the yearly update.
Changes
Yeah.
the chart.
Provided,
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very excellent suggestions. I like that. So I'll put something at the beginning, a purpose of our briefing slide. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Any other suggestions as you're thinking about it? Please, shoot me your ideas.
We don't have a date for it yet.
We don't, but it's likely to happen before our next meeting, which is why I wanted to go ahead and get that out here now.
Now, who is attending from the Climate Action Committee? Is it-
Everyone can attend.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is that something you'd like?
I think that'd be
The more
wonderful.
the merrier?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
I think that'd be wonderful.
You could just go ahead and ask Kayla, for example, this week, whether the climate action committee has been tentatively put on there, so you'll know.
That's a good idea.
Tell you.
Yeah.
Who runs that.
And also that'll provide a little,
Shana is speaking to you.
oh, I'm sorry, Shana.
Sorry.
There we go.
I think what would also be helpful is you're giving them an update, you're asking them to vote on a couple of things or give the go ahead on a couple of things, but you're also looking for their feedback, any questions they have, any comments, just general, what are their overall impressions of the work that you've been doing and anything that they have to say about it or anything that they're looking for more information on, things like that, just their general overall response to all of it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, good. All right, excellent. All right, next on to the greenhouse gas inventory. So first want to just flash this up, even though you can't read it, but I'm just going to reference it. This document, which I sent out in the package, encapsulates all the pieces of the inventory in one page, because the way it came across in the 1,000-line Excel spreadsheet is it had to find stuff all over the place. So I wanted to provide one level down, and I also am showing on the right-hand side what the data sources are. There were some questions, and I think Harriet, you had some good questions there, so I included that here, which shows what's the origin of the data. And anything with an X in the local data column is actual Eastham data. And you'll see a couple of areas here where there is just a prorated Massachusetts data, but it's for the more for some of the smaller areas like watercraft and off-road vehicles. So I just wanted everyone to be aware that as we move forward, some of these don't have direct measurements. It's just prorated allocations.
Can I ask a question or can I comment on one? So the IBPU, the ozone depleting substitutes, that's an area that I'm super interested in. And I've been trying to figure out from and maybe I should have asked the recycling committee a little bit more, because ozone depleting substances like HFC, hydrofluorocarbons, have potencies thousands of times that of CO2. And so if you have an air conditioner, you take it out, you put in heat pumps, you take out 5 window units and you put them down in the dump, a pound of CO2 is a pound of R410 is the equivalent of 2,000, pounds of CO2. And that, it's a staggeringly high number.
It is,
when you
I
look
know,
at it,
I
you
know.
You
3.5
compare to, you know, to
3.6%
transportation and
is,
stuff like that.
yeah.
And it's such
amazingly
an
high.
easy thing for us to deal with.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to say that if we take those, if the gas inside of those air conditioners is evacuated and recycled properly, we can avoid a lot of emissions.
Mm,
So that's a task, an action.
Yeah, so we need
Yeah,
to figure out
yeah.
what happens to those units. Is it shipped and crushed? Is it shipped? Does somebody
I
evacuate?
would hope that
Yeah.
they'd reached capturing it before they're, crushed.
Right.
Or,
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
A
But
really good
we
question.
think so, but I just found out that in California, that a colleague of mine is working to actually implement so that you won't get an incentive unless you can prove that you took the gas out of the unit.
mm.
Smart program.
took the gas out and put it hopefully somewhere.
Well,
Not just took it out.
properly
Yeah. Just
evacuated
released it,
and not vented, basically,
Okay.
is what it
But
is.
where?
Yeah, where?
Yeah.
Well,
how did they-
reuse it, basically use it to maintain a stock of refrigerator.
Yeah, but I'm saying a homeowner wouldn't do that, right?
No.
Right, yeah.
No.
No, in fact, I just brought a small wine refrigerator to the transfer station and they said anything that has refrigerant in it is special category, special charge. But it went into a pile. So the next
Well,
question is the good
Trying to
one.
figure out what happens
That
after the
pile,
Yes,
that's
pile.
right.
yeah.
Exactly.
Cause he came in with a big,
Yeah.
hook
Yeah.
and claw and dumped it into a
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
bin.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also it's a good point to make is that each of these categories, it's put into what's known as a CO2 equivalent number. And things like methane are multiplied by a given factor, and I don't remember exactly what that is, but it's a large factor to account for the extra weighting and impact that they have. So the charts that I wanted to,
Tom, did you see in my email
which one?
about the sequestration, carbon sequestration for the town? So what I did.
Yeah,
maybe-
yeah. I don't know if
Okay,
I,
so I don't know if
Go
we can
ahead.
talk about
Go
it
ahead.
quickly or not. So I looked at what the town is emitting in equivalent CO2 metric tons.
Mhm.
And I took the town area, our land mass and our water, estuaries and so forth. It did, what do we sink as a town
Mhm.
relative to what we emit? And we actually sink more than we emit.
but you know what's
Every year, so
interesting?
annually, we grow enough between our marshes and our forest growth. And I took the town's properties and I assumed only half the town was forest, which I believe is an understatement. I believe it's probably more
You
than
include
that.
the seashore.
I included whatever's included in the town of Eastham real estate,
Wow. Meaning the seashore.
whatever's in the town of
Wow.
Eastham real estate.
Yeah.
So,
I
so,
just took the town land mass as per defined and the town water as per defined, took those areas, assigned a sequestration sink capability to them, very conservative one too, not a aggressive one. And we sink well over 100,000 metric tons of CO2. So just an FYI.
that's interesting. And that
Okay.
email I did not see. Was that just recently?
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing to note, and I'm learning about this stuff as we go through. The only credit we get is for managed lands. Now, what that really means in managed lands, I don't know, but essentially from the very quick look that I took is that if you just happen to have a forest, you're not going to get credit for it unless you're doing something active to maintain and preserve that forest as preserved land. Same with marshes. So what
Again, it's not.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
telling you from a reality point of view of what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, the trees grow every year, the marshes, sprout weeds every year, or grass, right? And the oaks leaf out every year, the pines continue. If you look at the new growth per year is assigned to the Massachusetts. Massachusetts has a statewide, sequestration
Mhm.
formula. you know, and I use that as based upon our land, and then for the water, I used a very conservative one as well. I didn't use a mangrove or anything like that. I used like a salt marsh number.
But my point is
So-
that I think this is an opportunity because we have so much out there. We
Right.
could mark as preserved, as maintained in that category and get a lot of good credit for it. Prime example, and we brought this up with Jackie, is that the Nauset Marsh dredging was an item that she was against, and she fought Orleans to not dredge that marsh. And specifically, that's, you know, this gives ammunition to her and the town to resist those types of things. And perhaps we can go one step further. And Karen Strauss was interested in this in the Conservation Committee to be able to designate areas as managed so that they would not be disturbed in the future. And I think it's all part of the way the you know, the what is it, the IPCC, anyway, it's the IPCC. Yeah, as part of the you know, the major governing body for all of this with the United Nations has decided it's you're anything that you do that is you know, man-made increase of greenhouse gases is counted against you, and anything that you do that is not a normal evolution of you know, the earth and its lands in terms of sequestration, if you do, you know, manage that, you get credit for that. Anyway, it's interesting how they put it all together, but let me go through real quickly because we only have a few more minutes left here. In the greenhouse gas inventory, you can see on this chart some thoughts on you know, why we're doing it. But I also want to mention that in going through the spreadsheets, and anyone who is you know, good at spreadsheets or willing to take the deep dive, I would encourage you to go ahead and do that and take a look at how the consultants pulled this together. There were a couple items there that I wasn't happy about. One, and I'm going to ask these questions to the commission, plus any questions that we all come up with here. It appears that there's a double counting in municipal emissions. They broke it out for us, but I didn't see them subtract it from what's called the CNI, the commercial and industrial category, which is maintained by Mass Save. So I have in the spreadsheet package a subtraction of that to try to eliminate the double counting. I did a little bit of recategorizing in order to make it more meaningful to us. And I think that's a big question that I want to ask to you all as to what do we think the right types of slicing and dicing is going to be to make it useful for us to figure out what's the appropriate actions against things. So for instance, the transportation top level that they provided for us was on-road and off-road. Well, I didn't know what to do with that. So I redid all that, and I changed it around to look at residential versus commercial versus municipal. So I thought that might be at least one better way to address this. There were some smaller pieces like transmission and distribution and natural gas fugitive emissions. It was done differently than what the Cape Cod inventory did, and by itself it didn't seem to mean much. So it was allocated. I reallocated it to the sector that is using that gas, for instance. So you can take a look through that.
What's important to us is fossil fuel burning to heat the home.
Right.
Fossil fuel burning to heat hot water. fossil fuel burning to make electricity. That's what we care about, and that's what directly impacts what homeowners can do to help offset things.
Do we have any info on,
In addition to fossil fuel.
on water heating?
Driving.
Because that, there was no way that they had identified to identify water heat, domestic hot water, as a separate category. So if you have any ideas on that.
Tom, just one suggestion for the lead into this, as a briefing. May sound obvious, but it would be helpful to spell out the purpose of doing this inventory. What are we trying, what are we using the results for? The first bullet
Background
says
up top.
it's a baseline.
Mhm.
But there, in addition to that, we're trying to understand where geographically trouble spots are. We're trying to understand where are there opportunities. Maybe this is a public education thing where we're looking for ways to talk about this with the general public.
Yes, good point. Public education for sure. Geographic, I don't know how we do that.
Maybe
Other
it's
than
not
Eastham.
geographic, maybe it's areas of activity that.
Yeah, we could talk about areas of activity and how your actions affect, right, the greenhouse gas.
That's all part of the discussion with the climate action plan.
Yeah.
If you have a strategy, for example, buildings, you know what your emissions are, then your action steps follow, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a prioritization of what we want, like if we have, like you pointed out, transportation is bigger than anything else, right? So that's a good data point, you know,
And home
then,
heating.
you know, we have baselines for just about everything, and so we can measure against going forward, you know, if we make progress.
See, the other thing too that bothers me is that we don't know, we don't have it separated into what we actually generate emissions locally versus what we affect that's not local. Like power plant generation, that's emissions that aren't local, right? That's miles away. All right. What's local is what we burn from fossil fuels and what we drive and how we heat our homes and how we heat our water.
Right.
That's what's local.
Right. So make it
Right. Not a gas fired generator, at the
Yeah.
canal or a power plant that's,
Yeah.
you know, in Fairhaven.
That we have no power over.
Yeah.
But that's why they created these scope 1, 2, and 3, so that there is, you know, accountability and ownership of emissions. Scope 3 being supply chain.
And
basically.
sequestration too.
Yeah.
You know, we emit to heat homes, fossil fuels in the winter. We don't have the foliage in the winter for all of our deciduous trees. So where does the carbon go that doesn't go into the tree at that time of year,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's, you know, there's a whole bunch of things that
Yeah. Okay.
I'm delineating.
So let me show you the, oh, there were some other areas here just to be aware of, and we can make decisions on whether we want to somehow include that or not, but as far as I can tell, bus traffic is not included. How significant that is, I don't know. And also be aware that the in-boundary transportation emissions are calculated by real traffic counts. Now we could debate as to how good the traffic counts are and how their models really account for in-boundary, but they then place it under the mix of vehicles that are registered in Eastham. So there's an inaccuracy there because folks driving into town aren't necessarily driving the same mix of vehicles as people have registered in town.
Correct.
You can't separate those out. They're not separated out.
Not
Because that's a
separated out.
conversation we had,
Yeah.
on Thursday. The source of those.
What we have is there's a really nice mass, state census, vehicle census. We know how many miles every car is driven.
By age.
Yeah, but the traffic counts that they do right now, they're not recording vehicle types as they drive through. They're just recording axle.
Axle pings.
Yeah, there it is, axle
Okay.
pings. Yeah.
And they can be from anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, we could make a request, so something to think about. We could request them to do a more sophisticated count if we thought it was worthwhile. There's also, splitting out the National Seashore and the Nauset High School energy usages. That would be very interesting. We don't have that right now. And we talked about the sequestration and areas for inclusion. All right, so you'll see in here, this is an update on the based on my recategorizations, the same basic numbers, slightly reduced because I took out double counting and municipal. And I did two versions. One on the left, the upper left, is similar to the detailed version in the consultant survey, and then the one on the bottom right was an attempt at a more simplified version. So if you have thoughts on that, just shoot me an email on that. This set of charts models against what the Cape Cod Climate Action Plan has in it, and it kind of records, based on the top level categories. Again, to me, it's the one on the left is typically what you see. All right, well, we know most of it is transportation and stationary energy, but what really is behind that? And so what I attempted to do was break it down a little bit more on the right side.
But you've lumped the 38% includes power generation in home.
I know.
Right? So
If you think we should break that out, let's talk
I'd
about
like to
this.
see that 38% broken out between power generation and home usage.
It seems to me it comes up a lot. It would be nice to have some comparison of Eastham with other either communities or regions.
Coming up.
Okay, sorry.
Coming up.
Yeah.
And I know I'm moving fast because we're out of time here. But I just want to give you a flavor, and we'll go into more detail next time. So this is an example, and I'll get to yours in just a second, Roberta. But this is an example of trying to get some insights out of it. And on the right, what's really interesting is the passenger vehicles. Look at the number of percentage of vehicles that are 10 years or older.
Yeah.
So that's a big target for folks that are likely going to be shopping for cars.
Yeah, just town owned, not transiting through.
That's correct, because we can't, yeah. And on the left, look at the huge amount of fuel oil use in residential energy.
Yeah.
It's actually quite high, more than I expected. Now, if you go down a little further, I'm gonna go to Roberta's question. Okay, so what I attempted to do, whether it's valid or not, I'm still debating. But I took the total greenhouse gas emissions from these different selected categories and plotted it as a percentage, a prorated percentage based on per capita use in the entire county. So the line that you see on both of those charts is the Eastham population, prorated 2.5% of the county population. Look at the waste number. The amount of waste we have in total greenhouse gas emissions in a million tons of CO2 equivalents is 4% of the county emissions for waste. So that's really surprising to me. I don't know what's going on there. And then on the right-hand side, I plotted out by stationary energy by source of fuel. Look at the fuel oil, really, really high.
Well, there's a reason for that. I think it's hard for a lot of these houses to be connected to natural gas up here. It's not truly possible.
But I think what it perhaps shows is areas that we should be addressing, right? We have specific targets that we can go after. So again, think about areas that slicing and dicing this in ways that might be interesting for our action plan. All right.
This is really good.
So that's it. I apologize that we've gotten to the end of the meeting. We need to do meeting minutes for last meeting, and then I had a number of discussions that I will table till next time, or I'll send you out in a little blurbs on things that are happening. But let's talk about minutes, so.
Yep, you have the minutes as an attachment. There was one change, requested, need to fix something that you,
Part C.
reported on, yep.
Yep.
And that's been done,
Good.
so. I think we can.
All right, so we have motion to approve, or second, all right, all approve, all vote in favor, all against. Okay, just two real quick items. The Net Zero Conference is coming up this week. I believe that registration is closed for that. I don't know, I will be going. Anyone else going, Roberta?
Gary's going.
Okay, very good. Okay, and then there was an offer from Jackie. There's a Mass Recycles Conference coming up in the spring. If there's any interest in that, I'll send that out to everybody so you can take a look at it. Jackie's offering to send someone to that conference if we want to send someone. Okay. With that, if anyone wants to make a motion to adjourn, unless there's any other items that folks want to bring up.
Quick question, I know we have a meeting in November, they don't have a date for December, is that one?
So yes, the November date,
November's the 18th.
point, is the 18th.
Should be for other minutes.
And then
Second.
December will be the second,
Second Monday of.
right.
Okay, good,
We've been
thank you.
off because of holidays, both
That would be December 9th.
Indigenous Peoples' Day and.
December 9th. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's in the minutes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other items for today? All right, very good. Packed meeting. I appreciate everyone tolerating to our meeting again. And I think we had a motion to adjourn. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, meeting adjourned.
Good job, Tom.
Good job.